through that, I feel like I lost so much of myself and who things I loved about myself and who I wanted to be. I just felt like overnight they were gone. It almost felt like bringing a baby home as a first time mom. I'm like, there's no way they can let me leave with this child. There's no way I know enough about this disease
Oh,
to handle his care. I felt so out of my depth in that. I remember saying to Ben that our family was ruined, and I believed that.
this is the Unspecial podcast. We are a space for parents to be seen, heard, equipped, and inspired. We're not here to tell you what to do with your child or present the latest and greatest behavior modifications. We are simply here for you, the parent. And our goal, our hope, is that through every one of these conversations, you leave feeling a little bit more inspired and hopeful. We are glad you're here. Hope you enjoy this next episode. You were never meant to do this alone. Not the diagnosis, not the exhaustion, not the weight of motherhood. There's a seat for you, and you don't have to earn it. Today on the show, we have Megan Vondrak, and super excited to have this conversation. She is the owner, founder, creative genius, community builder, and your events always look so pristine.
Thank you.
The Unlonely Moms Club. Megan, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Zach. And that intro was everything. Forget a podcast intro. I want that to be our club intro, like maybe a walkout song for when our events start. And maybe
That's
there's
right.
a tunnel. We'll just play that audio and get everyone
There,
so pumped.
I will freely give it to you.
So generous.
All right, so Megan and I know each other from Point Loma Nazarene University.
Shout out.
Shout out to the Sea Lions, Lions of the Sea.
That's right.
And what year did you graduate?
I was 2010, so I
Right.
was just a bit ahead of you. But I remember you. You had a
Yeah.
presence.
I had what?
A presence. Like you were just a known individual. I
Really?
feel like, granted, it was the smallest school ever, more like a summer camp than anything, but there
Yeah.
were some people who just stuck out, and you were one of them.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I didn't know. I didn't think that. I just tried to stay undercover. I just tried to surf and play golf.
there you go. Your
That,
passions.
that was it. So catch me up. It's been 16 years. And I remember you. I mean, we didn't like hang out, but we had
Cross
mutual,
paths,
yeah,
yeah.
we have mutual
I
friends.
wasn't surfing. I wasn't playing golf, so count
Right.
me out of that.
What have you been up to for the last 16 years?
I had my dream job right after college. I was actually planning events for San Diego Magazine. So
Oh,
that kind of, I feel like, was the Lord preparing me for where He has me now. But after having our second child, and just realizing that my job paid me in fun instead of finances more so, that it made more sense for me to stay home. We then had our third child pretty quickly after, and was just doing the stay-at-home mom thing, living really close to Point Loma Naz, actually. Part of our daily walks is kind of strolling the campus. And then Miller was diagnosed with diabetes when he was 3. So that's been kind of our new reality, leaning into his diagnosis and just learning how to best care for him and all that entails. And through that, I feel like I lost so much of myself and who things I loved about myself and who I wanted to be. I just felt like overnight they were gone. So recently launched the Unlonely Moms Club alongside a really incredible group of women and an unstoppable board that I'm like, y'all, you take the reins. I want to champion what you guys are coming up with and what you're thinking of. So that's been a newer stage for me, but I am definitely so grateful to the Lord for those valleys, just because I feel like you just appreciate, the mountaintops that much more.
Yeah, you definitely changes your perspective on things.
Yeah, it
I
gives you a
mean,
whole new perspective.
think about our mindset in college. I literally all I thought about was like, when is the next swell gonna come, and when am I gonna play golf?
Right.
Like
And now we're
now,
podcasting. We've got an IEP course. We're writing books. We're father to four. Like, that
uh,
is so intense. I
just
don't know why this is kind of morbid. I just saw your tombstone in my mind's eye, and you're gonna have the huge one because it's gonna say it all.
gosh,
It's gonna say all of it right there, and
oh jeez.
it's gonna be shiny, and you're getting a well done, good and faithful servant for sure.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. I hope, I hope that's what I hear when I get there.
Definitely.
I don't know what it is on the morbid train. I've been going like we're going way off course. I don't even know if we're going to talk about our outline here. We're just going to talk.
I hope we do.
Um,
It's such a good outline.
I've been going like deep dive into end times
Hmm.
and Josh Howerton.
Revelations, or
Yeah, Lake Point Church. You ever hear that guy?
I haven't, but I'm gonna
Oh
look him up
man,
now.
I was in Texas a couple weeks ago, and I went to church with a buddy, and it was his church, massive. I think on Easter they said they had like
Everything's bigger in Texas. We know this.
50,000 people on Easter,
Wow.
and it was an end times message. And then since then, I've
That's a
been
bold
going
choice. That is a bold choice.
for a mega church. I know that's why I was like
Love it.
respect,
I love it.
and the Bible talks about end times like a lot more than we think.
Okay. A lot more than maybe we want to see. We don't want to
Yeah.
glean that from the
Which
text.
my big takeaway from that Sunday message was, it's so easy to get all, which this will relate to everything we're talking about. It's so easy to get wrapped up in everything we have going on, and hospital visits, doctor visits, pediatricians, all the above. And then also like the stress of Iran and the political climate and chemtrails or whatever.
Mm,
But it all has to happen.
right.
And like we know the end and we're on the right team.
Exactly.
So getting like, because I was starting to like look into the Iran stuff, but it kind of put me in check. Like, cool, it has to
Yeah.
happen.
That's like spewing some hope there. You're like, man, temporary. It's all temporary.
I know, and it'll go quicker than we think. All right, so Miller, how old is he now?
Miller is 5,
5.
and he is as wild as they come.
Yeah. Okay.
We've got a wild one in that little kid.
And so there's Mill. He's 5. What are the older two?
Emmy is 9 and Samuel's 7.
Okay. 975. That's kind of I got 974 and almost 2.
Look at you.
I know. I know. All right. Quick answer. Lonely mom or bad mom? Why do we confuse the two?
I think lonely mom is circumstantial. It might be maybe you weren't invited to something or nobody texted you, left you off, and then a bad mom is shame based. It's what you're telling yourself and you're believing that
Mm.
lie. So bad mom, I think, is more based on like a lie you're believing, and then a lonely mom is, it can be real. That can be your circumstances. It can be, a friendship that fell apart. And I do feel like that is more rooted in reality than the myth of being a bad mom.
Yeah, bad mom. And how easy it is to make up those stories in your head.
Oh man.
And then isn't it crazy once you lean into those stories you make up, how it becomes your reality?
Well, and it's always at night as well. It's always in the middle of the night when you're laying awake, and that's when those
How,
stories get the color added to them for sure.
how do you erase the color? What do you do?
Well, that is taking every thought captive, and that's just speaking truth to ourselves. And I feel like you do need to be rooted in scripture to kind of, undo that narrative. But the loneliness can still be there. Even when you're telling yourself, I'm a good mom, I'm a good friend, you can still feel so lonely in those moments, even when you are so rooted in truth and you are speaking that gospel to yourself.
Yeah, that's good. All right, then what's more dangerous, burnout or pretending you're fine?
I'm the queen of pretending I'm fine. I'm like, where's my tiara? That is my move. So with burnout, I'm a little less versed in that just because Miller has only had diabetes for 2 years and the Unlonely Moms Club has only existed for 6 months. So it's all new, it's all fresh. And I really haven't experienced that burnout. So I would say I'm just more familiar with pretending I'm fine.
Yeah. All right, if moms were honest, what would they finally admit they're struggling with?
This question's tricky, and I don't want to be divisive because we are probably so aware just that there's the two different camps of, well, I'm sure there's so many more camps, but moms kind of like to pick a side, we'll say. And I even feel that kind of juxtaposition in my own life, having two children without medical needs, and my worries for them and my fears for them are so different than my fears for Miller. And so, I struggle with caring about their spelling test and, wanting to hear about that mean thing that friend said to you on the playground. And then, there's Miller, who I just am praying, like, Lord, like, I pray that, who's ever watching him doesn't accidentally type in a 0 when they're administering his insulin dose and kill him. So I'm like, wow, we're really torn here. But I just
It's-
feel like that's the path, that's the journey.
so then, do you find yourself having a hard time having grace for people and their like little petty problems?
I
Problems?
can see the other side of the coin as well as, even diabetes to a mother whose child is truly fighting for their life probably sounds like a gift. And so I'm grateful for that perspective of and meeting moms that I would not have ever crossed paths with otherwise through the Unlonely Moms Club, specifically for me, of just like how dangerous comparison truly is
Mm.
and how I'm like, that's the enemy's move. It's like he wants you comparing. Even there's moms I know whose kids' diabetes are worse than my son's diabetes because they've had, more complications. And when Miller was diagnosed, there's something called DKA, and it's basically you're in a coma. And that's how the majority of kids receive a type 1 diabetes diagnosis, just because their parents aren't aware that anything is wrong until that moment. And even Miller
Oh
never went
wow.
into DKA. So I could see that, even being that split and that divisiveness.
Yeah. I heard a movie quote recently. It said, "There is no normal life.
Ooh,
There's
what movie
just
were you watching there? I'm like,
there's
that wasn't on
there's
Disney Channel.
no, there is no normal life. There's just life."
I like that.
And I feel like growing up, or like even going through college, you have this idea of like, I don't know. I was a business major, so they are all pumping into our heads like, get the corporate job, work your way up the ladder. This is your life. You're gonna do this, and you're gonna have fun, go on vacation, and here it is. And then
I
you
got into
get
that. That sounded so
oh,
good.
and then
I'm
you
like,
get the
put my
diagnosis,
money. Yeah,
or your wife gets cancer, or and it's just like, okay, that's all out the window. But then, like you said, how much it brings to you inside the pain and chaos. Like I've been wanting to special days, my book, I was writing that for like 5 years
wow.
and I could never get myself to finish it. And then I was in the hospital and then I finished it. And then I've always wanted to start this, but I have a construction business in North Idaho and I was too stuck in the job, the day to day. But once we moved back to San Diego, it's like, all right, well, I
Here we
can't sit
are.
still. So here we are. So there's always that silver lining because there's no normal life. It's just life.
Exactly.
What's one truth about motherhood that might offend people? I'm
I'm
all
gonna
ears because I
say,
mean,
I'm gonna say, I hope I offend you, and I hope you have another great movie quote for me. No, I'm just gonna say that you don't have to be fully understood to be known. And
Hmm.
after Miller was diagnosed, I walked around with such a chip on my shoulder they don't know what this diagnosis has meant for our family. They're not asking these questions. They're not learning what a diabetes diagnosis means. And then pretty quickly I realized like I don't fully understand the ins and outs of this disease. So if that is the bar that someone has to, level up
Mm.
to be in my life, it's like you are going to be desperately alone. And even with the Unlonely Moms Club, if only women were coming who would be understood by me specifically, it's like no one would be there. It would be the loneliest club out there because,
Right.
I could spend the rest of my life learning medical jargon and terminology and, treatment plans and, IEPs. And it's like the next day it could all change with what a diagnosis really looks like. So just how meaningful effort is, and how impactful questions are. And just, I think we want to be understood and we want to be seen, but you can't expect anyone to do that perfectly. And if that
Yeah,
is your expectation, you're going to be so alone.
totally. I experienced that for sure. So many people have helped us and supported us. And for a little while, I was like, I mean, I'll be honest, I was annoyed. Like, so, I would get a group of pastors' kids, so
Right.
everything in life was like not to a fault, but it was spiritualized,
Right.
and I kind of had like a fluffy Christianity, and so I would be getting a lot of like feel good Bible verses or feel good sayings, and like
The ones that
felt
look good on mugs. Those are the ones
yeah,
they
and
were.
those are always just like they felt so empty.
Right.
Um, and I like it more like John Piper, like punch me in the face. Like
Yeah.
I need to know that this is doing something and there's meaning behind it, or else it just all feels like a waste. But eventually I got past it and I was just like, all right, everybody means well. They just don't quite know how to show up. Everybody's different, so maybe that worked for somebody else in their life, but it doesn't work for me. And
Right.
so once I stepped back and I was just like, these thankful that people are showing up. But I
It
don't know.
is really comparable to being a pastor's kid, though, because it's like people are in your life and they're in your story, and you didn't necessarily invite them in. So it's
Right.
like they're there. It's like I missed the part where I invited you, but then
Yeah.
when you can step back and, experience their heart and their intention, I feel like that does lead us to a place of appreciation for sure.
Right. So, all right, when he was three, Miller, did you? How did you know? Like, how did you find out? What's this?
We were celebrating our 10th wedding anniversary. Ben was turning 40. I'm like, I've always wanted to go to Costa Rica. Like, let's make it happen. So we bring the kids to Costa Rica. We're having such a good time. Just, it's such a beautiful place. Like, and
Where'd you
we
go?
really felt like we'd arrived as parents. Like, oh my goodness, like who cares if he misses a nap? And, they're all playing, they're having fun. Like, look at us. Like, where are we going next? But there were definitely things about Miller's behavior that could be attributed to we're in a foreign country, the time change, we're living differently, eating differently. Maybe that's what he's dealing with because he was so tired. He was, not his joyful, happy self, just wanting to be in fights, basically. I'm like, okay, I guess going to Costa Rica turns you into kind of a jerk, but we'll deal with that. And then another big one is excessive thirst as
Oh,
well as bedwetting. So he was still in a pull up at the time. And it just felt like every morning he woke up just soaked in pee. But again, foreign country, different rhythms. We were kind of, brushing it off and wanting to believe that that's what was going on with him.
so then you took him in and
So we got home on a Monday. Ben turned 40 on Tuesday. And then that Wednesday, I could not shake. Like, he's not getting better. We've been home for 2 days. Like, he's still, exhibiting all these symptoms. And I had remembered reading the Babysitter's Club as a young girl. And there was a character who had type 1 who exhibited all these symptoms. And I thought of Stacy. I'm like, I think he has diabetes. My husband
Whoa.
telling me you're crazy. You're going down that rabbit hole. Like, there's no way. So I brought him into the pediatrician, really hoping that Ben was right and that we could laugh about how I was being so alarmist and just, WebMDing myself to a diagnosis. But it probably took our pediatrician 5 minutes before she let us
Oh,
know
jeez.
Miller had type 1 and that we had to go straight to Rady's
Oh, Radies.
and yeah, spend some quality time there.
I know Radies.
Yeah, I've
Why?
never
Why is
been
that?
to Rady.
Why is it so dirty in there?
I didn't notice the dirt. I think we were in a
Oh,
double room, and so that's where most of my focus went.
yeah. So, other than reading the book, did you know anything else about diabetes?
I was so clueless. It's actually embarrassing. I have since apologized to a dear friend who's kind of been my diabetes guru. She's on board for Unlonely Moms. Like, I had no clue what you were walking through and what this was like because, my only perception of diabetes was just so far off. So I
So,
could
what
not have been more clueless.
did you just do a bunch of research?
After his diagnosis,
Yeah.
you are really brought up to speed in the hospital because their care is fully your responsibility at that point. And even when we were being discharged, we were there for a week. And I'm like, I can't, it almost felt like bringing a baby home as a first time mom. I'm like,
Mm.
there's no way they can let me leave with this child. There's no way I know enough about this disease
Oh,
to handle his care. I felt so out of my depth in that.
oh, I know that feeling. When Jack came home from the NICU, he was like 5 pounds. He was home for a week, and then we went back to Rady's because he had a cold,
Hmm.
and he stayed there for like a week. But I remember I kept like stalling him because I
Right.
was so freaked out to bring him home. Like, no, I
And that was your fourth child. Like, you knew you'd been a special education teacher. Like, you knew you were so equipped.
freaked
But
out.
yeah. It's
But
heavy.
infants, not my jam. Like
Mm.
Reika did, she handled the other three.
She's the baby
I was
whisperer.
like, yeah, and I just did the fun stuff,
Yeah.
like, oh,
I
I'm
don't
home from work, let's go have fun. But
know.
I didn't worry
It's
about any of
mindful.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, she worried about all that stuff. So thankfully, Jack's crushing it. Other than his teeth are coming in and he's not sleeping.
Whew.
So can you break down diabetes? I had a couple diabetic students, and it was very stressful. One in particular in middle school, and we learned his cues like on when he needed more sugar.
Right.
Um, and he had the Quest cookies.
Okay.
That was his thing. But it was
Those
like
are like $9 a cookie. Okay. And then insulin's expensive. I'm like, it's
it
poor kid.
was Carmel Valley.
Okay. They got it.
They
Maybe
got
they
it.
own Plus cookies.
It
Sponsor
probably did.
UNspecial Plus cookies. Let's go.
But it was high alert all day, and I was exhausted
It's a
at the end of
lot.
the
It
day.
really doesn't, you really can't take breaks from it. We're really fortunate that Miller wears a Dexcom as
Okay.
well as an insulin pump, an Omnipod. So I joke that he's my little Tamagotchi that, he has a phone and it goes with him wherever he is. And then the management is tied to that. But unfortunately, caring for a child with diabetes really looks like worrying. And, we talk about what moms struggle with and are you a bad mom? Are you a good mom? He has a graph that shows to a percentage his time in range, and you want to keep the algorithm tight. You want to keep him in range. You don't want his blood sugar to go high. You don't want to let him crash out and it to go low. And it's really difficult to not tie
Hmm.
how you're doing as a mom to what that graph looks like because it's just in your face every single day and you're almost rewarded. He's got an endocrinology team, and that's kind of the first thing they want to hear when they're like, how's Miller? They don't mean did he have fun at that birthday party, or did he play well in his hockey game? They like care, like, what does that graph look like? And, that it's a fight to not tie my worth as a mom to how much green's on the graph versus how much red. You don't want the red.
Oh man. So can you see it on your phone?
I can see it on my phone.
And he's at school right now?
He is getting his hair cut right now. Another very
Oh,
important.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's important.
yeah, it
God.
matters.
Do you look at it all day?
All day. It's like the phone fast.
Oh, I'm
And
stressed.
yeah, and there's alarms. I tried to change the alarms to make them more kind of upbeat. They kind of sound like a calypso ringtone just because I'm like, my cortisol is spiking every time an alarm goes off. But I'll report back if that helps me. If the alarm is
So,
a little more happy if I don't panic as much.
so the alarm goes off. How quick? Like, what happens?
So the rate of change is an important thing to pay attention to because sometimes, he's rising really high or he's falling really quickly. Um, so when your blood sugar is out of range, that can lead to organ damage. And then when it's dropping too low, that's when you're likely to pass out. And
Hmm.
then that's a real fear with Miller just because he's less aware of how he's feeling as a 5-year old. And as a wild 5-year old boy, he's not really, tuned into his own cues.
Hmm.
So, we get to be his pancreas and, sometimes the phone's saying one thing, but,
Oh yeah.
his Dexcom's gotten disconnected or, the Omnipod says it's dosing him, but it hasn't been. Another thing we recently ran into was our middle son was wanting to play on his phone and he knew you don't get to play on his phone. That's not available to you. So he was sneaking his phone and turning the alarms on silent. So we wouldn't know he was playing on the phone. And so, we're waking up and his blood sugar is crazy low. He's at 40. Like has entered into a dangerous territory and we couldn't figure out what was happening, why we weren't getting alarms. Like this phone is supposed to alert us when we're having a problem. Well, we figured out our middle son was really jonesing to play some Android games. So he was
Oh
turning off the
man.
alarms in order to do that.
So you have the technology, which is awesome. Is the pump automatic?
The pump is controlled by his phone. And
Okay.
then it's on automated mode. So there's always kind of a background insulin he's receiving, which is really helpful. But their bodies are so unpredictable. Diabetes is so unpredictable. You could do the exact same things every day, feed him the exact amount at the exact time, and his body can just respond so differently. So you learn to be really open-handed with that.
Yeah, it's like you can rely on it, but then you can't in the back of
Right,
your
exactly.
head.
You question it for sure.
So then you have to rely on your intuition, which you had incredible mom intuition. All moms have crazy intuition into their kids. Before the diagnosis, you saw something was up before he went into the coma.
DK, yeah. Imperfect.
Um, Jess, yeah. So you have to mix your intuition with the technology, and you can never separate yourself from it.
Yeah. And before the diagnosis, I feel like that verse of like, don't worry about tomorrow, like that, I lived in that. That was my jam. I'm like, you're not worrying about tomorrow. And then diabetes management, I feel like could also be explained as do worry about tomorrow. Like you better be worrying about tomorrow because that's what staying in range looks like. So
Uh
it's just, yeah, it was a big shift.
what's been like the most intense moment?
After he was diagnosed, dinner in this house, like I almost wish it was filmed. It was
Amazing house,
a
by the way.
nightmare, a nightmare. I remember saying to Ben that our family was ruined, and I believed that. I believed that, you know, dinner would feel pretty close to hell forever because that's the place we were in. Miller would have to, it was before he had a pump, it was before he had a Dexcom. So we would take his blood sugar by pricking his finger. He would then be administered insulin via an injection. The other kids are on edge. And then we basically have to force feed him because it was, we've already given you this dose of insulin. So now what you're eating needs to match the insulin you'd already received. And, 3-year-olds don't like to be told what to eat.
No.
There was even recommendations of what order he should eat his food in order for the insulin to be the most effective. So we're trying to tell him like, eat your food in this order, and he's just looking at us like, why would I listen to anything you say? You clearly don't love me. You just gave me 2 shots before you sat me down and you're forcing me to eat this food. So one night he had picked up his plate. I don't know why I gave him food on his last plate, but that night he grabbed it as a little 3-year-old. He raises it over his head and he threw it across our dining space. And I was just like, this is it. This is what dinner will look like and feel like. And I would text the girls in my Bible study, like, hey, dinner's in 5 minutes. I need you to stop what you're doing. I need you to pray because, I've never been more tempted to just walk out this door and, you know,
Oh man.
I'm not handling this well. And I was very aware of how poorly I was handling everything. So that was an extra weight on that whole situation.
So, man, how did you go from that situation? Like, how did you rebuild yourself?
I really think I had to come to terms with the fact that I was becoming someone who worried. I was becoming someone who didn't get to experience every situation as, magical and wonderful. Like dinner wasn't always going to feel like my favorite part of the day. And you almost have to grieve who you were and what your life looked like. And for me, I felt like that looked like removing myself from situations where I couldn't show up like the version of myself that I missed and that I loved.
Mm,
And so, I'm like going there or being with those people is a reminder to me of how different my life is and how poorly I'm doing. And I actually had a friend, I think you know her, Leah Hauk. She came over and she sat me down because I was telling her, I'm like, I'm quitting our Bible study. I'm not going back. Like, I just can't handle the reminder that my life doesn't look how I wanted it to look. So I thought that meant, the best choice for me was retreating and was isolating. And she just fully said, like, no, you're actually not doing that. Like, I understand that that's what you want. She's like, I will be at
mm.
your house and I will pick you up and she was kind of mean actually. She
That's a
wasn't,
friend right
but it was
there.
exactly what I
That's a
needed.
friend.
Yes. And she just put her foot down with me. She went big sister. And I feel like it really changed the course because once you step out of these situations, in these places and these friendships, I just feel like it's so much harder to
Yeah.
re-enter because, it's like, it's that lie that you're believing and then you almost are making it true. Like, I
Hmm.
can't be myself in this situation. And it's like, right, because you're not in that situation. But
Right.
I'm just really grateful that, she gave me that tough love that day and that yeah, she wouldn't allow myself to be the person that I thought I needed to be. And, I just felt so consumed, like I'm not her anymore. But she just really spoke into me like, we want to meet this new person who you are, and we want to love them. Like, the expectation isn't that, you're Megan from before this diagnosis. The expectation is that we're going to love this new version of you, and we're going to come alongside this new version of your family, and we're going to learn this diagnosis with you. And it's meant everything to me.
It's such an interesting space to be in because grief, grief.
Capital G. Just play your podcast from last week. I'm like, we're just going to sit back and listen.
Because every part of you wants to isolate, wants to
Oh,
numb, and do nothing. And
Stuff
it
it.
in turn it makes it so much more difficult. And thankfully, like you, I my mentor for like a couple of years now. That was the main thing he told me from the start of our journey is don't just keep moving. You have to keep going. You have to keep doing stuff because the second you go numb, you're going to make your life a lot more difficult. And there is those days where it's so hard to do anything. Like the simplest task of sending an invoice. Like
Oh my gosh.
you would,
Cripple.
yeah, and it
Right.
literally takes 5 minutes. And it's like, oh, I'm going to get paid. Like it should be an exciting moment. But it's like some of those days it takes all of you just to do the littlest steps. And yeah, the grief coach, Bethany, what I learned from her the most was she said three things, three hacks on those days when you're struggling the most is most of the time you need water, protein, and movement.
I love all those things.
And just, I mean, those are super easy, right? And you have to like really force yourself to do it.
Definitely.
And then another thing is too, like, don't skip over the grief. Like, let it happen.
Right.
Because like when you stuff it, then you're not. You're just. It's a. A cycle of hardship that you
Do you
force on
identify as
yourself.
a stuffer? Are you push it down or
Um, I probably, or I'll
that's
minimize
not
it.
Stephanie.
Yeah, or I'll minimize it. Like, ah, oh, it's not that
Okay.
big of a deal. When in fact, it like is a big
And then it
deal.
just comes up in different ways and
Yeah, it'll build and build and build,
yeah,
and then I'll do something.
unexpected moments.
I'll do something stupid. that's
Yeah.
been
No.
that's been my mentor is always like, how can I pray for you? I'm like, bro, just pray for protection that I don't do anything stupid.
Yes and amen.
It's like, just keep moving and then remain in God. Like that's my John 15:5. That is my life verse. Like I'm the vine, you're the branches, remain in me, and I in you, and you'll bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do
Nothing. Do you feel
nothing.
like you clung to that before everything, or do you feel like that has been the banner over this chapter?
I always thought that verse was cool, and I heard a couple sermons on it, and I was like, oh yeah,
The
yeah, yeah,
grafting and yeah.
yeah. But this 2 years, like that's been my lifeline, and it's like, and then learning from Bethany also, and bringing those. I mean, I'm a dude. I don't like share my emotions so much, um, which is cool. Learning about grief and God and lament, like I can in my share those emotions with God, and He can
Right.
handle them. And like growing up, like I said, like in a kind of a bubble of Christianity, I always like figured you had to have it all figured out when you approach God. Like you're doing the things, but I'm learning like it's messy and it's
Right.
fine. It can be messy,
And
and
just
He doesn't.
modeling that for your kids, I feel like
Right.
is really
So
cool.
yeah, how did like your other children? How did you explain diabetes to them?
So Miller was 3 when he was diagnosed, Emmy was 7, and Samuel was 5. And so it's so interesting because we have kind of realized that they remember before Miller was diagnosed, whereas he does not remember life before diabetes. And so that is somewhat of a gift for him because it's not like he looks back and he
Oh
thinks like,
yeah.
okay, before I had diabetes, my life was like this. But the older kids, they remember. And they're actually very close to curing diabetes. I don't know if Miller will be eligible for the
Really?
cure for a very long time, but it's cool because when we talk about the cure as a family, we also talk about how you will not have diabetes in heaven. It's going to be so cool.
Yes.
But I think that just means a lot to them because they remember what it was like before their little brother. And just the impact of children's books,
Yeah.
but just how powerful. I'm like, wow, I've never identified more with a crocodile who's in a kayak race.
Totally.
This is speaking to my soul. Like, I am this crocodile. He's racing his kayak and just, leaning into that and just allowing them. to participate in his care. They are not welcome at his appointments. They cannot be there, even though they're, you know, quite a few hours every couple months. But, I would love them to be able to attend an appointment just to see, he is receiving this affirmation and he is being told, you're doing great, Miller. And I think a lot of times your kids might not, really buy into what you're saying as a parent, but just to hear that from a doctor, I feel like would be really powerful. Because if it's powerful coming from a crocodile who's on a kayak, then I feel like it'd
Right.
be really powerful coming from a doctor for them to hear as well.
It just brings the kid out in us. We gotta keep the kid alive. I think
Exactly.
we get
Illustration.
too
We got
we
a
get
long way.
well we get too old and we take it so serious. It's like it's life. What how do you balance like the attention Miller needs, which your other kids need as well? Like I know a common, not a myth, but like a subconscious thing to do easily is forget the other kids. Not forget, but
Mhm.
he takes a lot of attention. Do you
So
guys do any?
now it feels
Yeah.
easier just because Miller goes to preschool 6 hours a week. So he's
Okay.
with us the majority of the time. So it just feels like a natural um, balance of attention. But he will go to kindergarten next year. And I think we're going to um, have to figure that out just because, when are we going to fit those pump changes and those Dexcom changes and, those doctor's visits and, he gets extra care on top of what he receives from his endocrinology team and, where are we going to slate that in? But, as far as Miller's care goes, we've really tried to invite our family into it, to invite our community into it, because right after he was diagnosed and he got his Dexcom for the first time, he'd wear it on his arm a lot and he'd walk around with it covered. And we noticed what he was
Oh.
doing and it broke our heart. We're like, he doesn't want anyone to see, he doesn't want anyone to know, you know, the alarms would be going off and he'd be acting like, well, I don't hear that. Like, that couldn't possibly be about me. And so I think just, trying to pump him up and buy him the coolest stickers to go around his Dexcom, like they always end up looking like a Blink 182 album. I'm like, okay, this is what it is. And it's like, okay, your blood sugar's low. You need these gummies. Like, let's give everyone gummies. Like, sorry to the other
Uh,
parents around. Their kids are getting gummies too, and just, really making it feel like, like it's something lighter than it is. We do a
yeah.
diabetes walk. His phone has superhero stickers on it, but Ben and I will laugh. We're like, people probably think like we love this. Like diabetes is the best. And we're like, mumbling to each other, like, this is the worst. Like we hate diabetes. But, I just feel like we want to take the weight off him. And then, yes, that makes it heavier for us, but like we would all carry these things for our kids. And a
Right.
lot of I feel like parents will say like, "Why not me? I wish I could carry this for them." And it's like, you are. Like you are carrying so much of this for them. Even though
Hmm.
you don't have the diagnosis yourself, it's like this is so much lighter for your child just because of you entering into it with them and making it less scary and less, all consuming.
Yeah. So then, let's. I'm going off script. What? You and Ben. You've been married for how long?
Since 2013, so coming up on 13 years. Lucky 13.
13 years. So you had been married for
It was our 10th anniversary, so I feel like
10.
we had just, yeah, hit that decade. We were feeling pretty good about things.
Right, right. You said you felt like you had arrived. You'd made it.
Yeah, we made it.
How,
We were almost out of diapers, like, whew.
would you say going through the diagnosis and diabetes has brought you closer together?
Definitely brought us closer to the Lord. I feel like sometimes it does feel like this third party in our marriage because it's like we'll get back together and I won't ask him how his day was. I'll be like, how were Miller's numbers?
Mm.
Or, a lot of um, the kind of night wakings he's taken on, just because we learned pretty quickly that I couldn't fall asleep after I would have to deal with something in the night. So he has started to shoulder that. And then, I don't ask him, like, how did you sleep last night? I say, like, how many times were you up with Miller? And so that's probably something that we might need to address, just because, he matters so much to me. And I am so grateful for the husband and father he is. And even just, grateful to the Lord for the way Ben's work life is structured, because it just feels like it was, almost a safety net that we could fall into, just because he does work from home.
Oh,
He has his
nice.
own company. So it was, it felt like we were set up to handle this diagnosis, just based on, he's that dad who's at the practices, and he can handle, the pickups and the drop offs, and he knows our friends, our kids' friends, parents. So it's, he's really ingrained as well, which is really different from how I grew up with a dad who was a professional hockey player who was
Oh,
gone
no
a
way.
lot. So I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, my husband's office, is under our roof.
Uh-huh.
And I see a lot of that man.
Too much.
I'm like, listen, dude, like, please don't go getting sick of me. If it's true that absence makes the heart grow fonder, he's probably not very fond of me, but his actions say otherwise. So
What's
it's
what's
so
his
interesting, like how we're raised versus
yeah.
what we provide for our kids.
Yeah, what's his company?
It's financial planning.
Oh, nice, nice. Yeah, it's a trip. I look back too, like when we left North Idaho, my construction business was 2.5 years old, and I
So
had
a
a
baby.
yeah, and it wasn't set up for me to leave.
Oh yeah.
It was like
You didn't have a choice though.
no, and I was working towards that. Thankfully, I had a my project manager now. He had already been with me for a year, and so he was like in the works to take over the reins, and then it kind of forced our hand. But I was just telling Reka the other night, I'm like, can you imagine if I was still a teacher or if I had a 9 to 5 job? I would have for sure had to quit by now. And then,
Right.
but that in the 2 years of me not being in town, the my business has gotten exponentially better.
Amazing.
And
The
like,
Lord's provision right there. But
I
even
know
for you to admit that, like, that was probably humbling, because we want to believe,
it's like
I'm
me, yeah.
all put together, I'm the glue, and then it's like
It's like
we learned
I,
that
I
pretty quick.
separate, and it's like, oh, you guys are fine without me.
You're the inspiration. That's what's
Right. Which is funny though, because I didn't grow up in construction. I didn't know construction. I started it with my brother. He knew everything. I was like, I'll do the business side. Um, 4 months in, he had some family stuff. So I just took it by myself. I watched YouTube for a year,
there you go.
and I like did jobs pretty poorly. Um, but now, like my crew, they are way more skilled than me, way more talented in construction. And it's like I had to be. This is my role, and I had to be in this role, but I couldn't be in it when I was in town. So it's like no matter what, you can look back and see how God kind of forms your steps to get to where you are.
Yeah. Just his hand in all of it.
Yeah. And then it gives you hope going forward. Like, okay, he's carried me this far. Like, he's gonna take
But
care of
how
me.
many times we have to remind ourselves of that? It's
I
like
know.
the mercies are new every morning. It's like, or like every hour. Your
Every
grace.
hour,
Yes.
like those days where you're just like, I just need to make it to bedtime.
Yeah, we can do it.
So you started Unlonely Moms Club, and you started that because you saw a need, something you lived in, right? Being lonely. What's the inspiration behind that, and your hopes for it?
So I was with a cousin of mine last November, and she belongs to a group in Houston called Steel Magnolia Moms, and they pay for therapy for hundreds of moms
Whoa.
whose children have special needs, like fully covered amazing weekly hour-long and I just was blown away. I could not stop thinking about this group after learning about it, and just, how impactful that would be in the life of a mom with a child with special needs. And, that's not my background, that's not my gifting. But I just could not get it out of my head. Like, it just would pop into my brain. And I was at kind of a prayer gathering with some really dear friends, and it came time for me to ask for prayer, and I just completely like spat out, including the name, which I also had not thought of at that point. So if anyone wants to make fun of the name, I'm like, make fun of it, I didn't come up with it. Like, let's just, give credit to where credit's due. And I just, started asking for prayer at that point because I wanted to start this club. It's not a Christian club. It's, I want to remove all barriers to belonging for women who come. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the Lord hasn't called me to preach in
Mm-hmm.
this capacity. I feel like when I ask him, like, Lord, like, what do you want from me with this? Like, I just keep hearing, like, just love these women. And that is very easy, to love these women. I'm just like, when you start something and you expect, like, Lord, like, I am going to bless these women, like, use me, send me, like, I'm ready, Lord. Like, I want to be an instrument for your kingdom. And he's just like, you sit back, because, you will not come away from this. It's like the burning bush. Like, you will be changed from encountering this and from experiencing this. And we've only had 3 events. We have the next 3 are fully planned as well, but it's just, again, it's that, daily provision for what that next event will hold. And they're held at no cost to the moms attending.
Oh, wow.
I would so love to be able to provide childcare for them all, but we're not there yet. That's just a dream. And then they alternate between movement-based events and creative-based events. And it has been really cool to see, moms of kids who don't have these needs or, these diagnoses, and just the way they've really wanted to step in, and love moms they've never met as well. I'm like, you will see Jesus all over these events, but, you don't have to believe to
Mm-hmm.
attend. And, you know, it's been a gift to me as well, because a lot of these women, I don't think I would ever have crossed paths with, if it wasn't for the Unlonely Moms Club, just because, our kids have different diagnoses, like, we live in different neighborhoods, like, we're into different things. And I'm like, wow, like, even that 10-minute conversation I got to have with you has just shaped me in a way that I'm going to continue to look back on. And, it's like, I feel like sometimes as Christians, we'll like elevate other Christians just because something within our spirit like resonates with what they're saying. But, these moms, it's like, they're loving their children, and they're caring for their children, and they're providing for their children just as beautifully as someone who knows and loves the Lord. And just like, I feel like it's really taken me until now to like learn that there is not a distinction between, like, that love for your child is the same. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Lord, like, thank you for opening my eyes to that and giving me that opportunity. And I know and love the Lord. The women on the board know and love the Lord. And the women who attend our events are prayed for, behind the scenes, their families are prayed for. But it's more a prayer of like, Lord, be with them. And maybe not necessarily a prayer of like, Lord, use us to draw them to you. Because I don't think the Lord needs us to do that. I think he can do
Right.
that on his own,
That's amazing.
like,
And
without me.
I feel like, yeah, that's so cool. When you throw like the Christian label on it, it kind of, I mean, I was in it my whole life. It makes it feel weird. But if you could just be the hands and feet, like
Totally. And
that's
that is my deepest desire. As much as I want the event to be beautiful, I want the giveaway, like, I want the giveaway to just knock people to the ground. I want them to be
yeah.
so just losing their mind over it, or, the activity. or the, what we're eating. But it's like, that's nothing, that's a vapor
Right.
compared to like feeling loved and feeling like, wow, like I'm not excluded from something just because my life and my family looks different.
Mm-hmm. Has there been so there's been 3 meetups? Is there once a month, right?
We're doing once a month.
Once a month, and they're free. And there's a cap on them.
We have had to cap just because of, different constraints. So our next one
Logistics.
is at a Pilates studio. So they're like, we only have so many reformers. And I'm like,
Right.
breaks my heart a little, but um,
Have you
you know,
had any?
I'm aware
Ch-
I can only do what I can only do.
have you had any challenge of finding moms?
Social media is so incredible for that because it's like we're already there. We're already
Right.
just, you know, in that space. And especially, I think moms of kids with special and medical needs, like, do spend more time on social media because you are connecting with people who you would not connect with otherwise. And I think that's so beautiful. So
Uh-huh.
just kind of getting to insert ourselves into the community that already exists and already is so strong. I think when we first launched, there was some pushback, just like, like we've been doing this for years. Like my child has had autism for 20 years. Like, what do you know about this diagnosis and this life? And just being able to say, like, I don't know anything. Like, I am so like out of my depth here, but I want to learn and I want to provide a space for you to connect with, women who maybe you have known for years online. And I want to give you a latte while you're doing that. And
Yeah.
just, it's been really cool and just being super vulnerable with that. Like, I'm not coming in as an expert. Like, I throw great parties, yes. Like, I'm an expert party thrower, but I'm not an expert on your child's diagnosis or my child's diagnosis. So just
Right.
really owning that, I think has really, been a huge part of, why these women have come together. But two of our first events were at my home. And I just wanted to, thank these women. Like, you don't know me. Like, this is our first event. Like, you're walking into my home. Like, that is a very vulnerable position. And
Yeah.
thank you for trusting me with this. Just, it's an honor that you would step into my home not knowing anyone, really not knowing what this club was about. And just, I feel like it speaks to, like, you would have to be in a very lonely place to take that. That's a leap. Like, you would
Hmm.
have to be like, hey, like, I am feeling so lonely. I'm going to go to this stranger's house. And even for me, like, wow, like, just speaking to the depth of the loneliness I had experienced, to be like, hey, like, strangers, come over. Like, I want you in my home. And I
Right.
just, like, it's really been sweet.
Well, it's such a needed space, and it literally can change everything.
I think so.
Just not isolating and doing it alone, it'll change everything. And then it's especially too. I'm always so impressed by every guest that comes on. Is essentially everybody turns their pain into purpose, and everybody's like gone down the road, gone through the emotions and everything, and they're like, "Well, I need to do something about this." And then so many people are starting so many things, and it's all just incredible
It's
and
really
and
cool.
helpful. All right, three self care hacks. What do you do?
Self-care hacks. Man, I'm a lover of ClassPass, I will say, just because sometimes you don't have something intense in you, but you just want to go like lay on the ground somewhere and have, weird hippie music playing. So join ClassPass, mix it up.
Wait, what's
Um,
class? What's ClassPass?
it's like, doesn't make you belong to a certain studio. You just kind of get to bop around.
Oh, you're a
So big
roamer.
fan.
Okay.
Yes. But even, when your kids are not in a great spot, it's like booking a class can feel impossible. Like,
Yeah.
who's watching my kids and where am I driving? And, I'm grateful that Unlonely Moms, it's like, okay, we're doing that for you. paying for it and organizing it. Like, you don't have to think about that. Like, as of now, our request is that you find childcare, but I also would love to eliminate that.
And sometimes you do need that alone time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like
It
I
can
love
hurt.
surfing by myself. I don't want
Right.
to surf with you. Sorry.
Now I'm going to go cry. I'm going to go look at your favorite break out my window, and I'm going to tell you how
Oh
clean it
man,
looks. It looks so clean today.
that's true. All right, that's the first. What? Two
So
more
that's
hacks.
one. Yeah. Don't be afraid to ask your husband for help, or
Ooh,
yeah, whoever is kind of partnering with you in childcare, just because it will end up benefiting them as well. And the third self-care hack, yeah, it just doesn't have to be big. It can be, self-care doesn't, it's not going to save you. Like, self-care will not save you. It is not that band-aid on that bullet wound, but like, it can help. Like, don't worship it, but
hmm,
also don't neglect it. So just kind of seeing it for what it is, and recognizing that this is not going to take away your child's diagnosis. Like, this is not going to take away that loneliness that you've been feeling, but there is a benefit to reflecting on your own needs.
yeah. What do you think your life would look like if you haven't hadn't found community?
So for us, we had a really beautiful community before Miller's diagnosis, and I think I thought, you know, they didn't know what this was like. They can't understand it. So I thought it meant, abandoning these wonderful friendships that we'd been cultivating since college. But learning, no, they want to be invited in. They want to learn this. They're going to care, and just seeing that play out has been really amazing. And then from there, I feel like they've given me the encouragement, and just covering us in prayer to then kind of be able to start this new community. And then also they've been partnering in that. Like, I had a friend who taught our first yoga class, and then another friend who, led our floral class. And, we've had photographers at every event donating their service. Like, those are friends, and just like, okay, this is not their like lived experience, but like, the care is so
Hmm.
genuine, and the love is so genuine, and just like seeing them use their giftings for this kind of shared club and this shared mission.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Thanks,
All right,
Matt.
I'm gonna close it out with three questions.
Let's
Heavy,
go.
heavy hitters. If your kids could describe you in this season, what would they say?
Ooh, I hope that they see Jesus shining through me. I feel like I have received a lot of praise since starting Unlonely Mom Clubs. Like, you are doing an amazing thing. Like, you are so, creative. And I'm just like, man, I do want my children to see that that's the Lord in me. Um, so yeah, I would love them to just be aware of people around them who are hurting. And, that does break my heart to think of like a 9-year-old, you know, who could maybe encounter a child who's hurting and be there for them in that way.
Hmm. Hmm. If you could go back to diagnosis, what would you tell yourself?
That for in our situation, there has been a lot of improvement. So just that, yes, we were in the pit after we received that diagnosis, but for us, we're so grateful for that, and we're also so aware that that is not everyone else's story. But Miller's going to kindergarten next year, and like that in itself, like, we're not worried about like, will he be made fun of? We're worried about like, okay, what? Well, let's make sure we pack all his favorite gummy bears, and like, let's definitely buy him a new backpack. So just like getting to this place of, yes, diabetes is a banner over our family, but it's not the only,
Mm,
it's not the whole sum of who we are as a family.
Yeah. What are your dreams for him? What are your hopes for him?
My hopes and dreams.
Yeah.
I'd love for his diabetes to be cured, but I would just love for him. He's very proud of himself. And I'm like, I want you to hold on to that. I'm like, Miller, he was telling me there's such a thing as diabetes dogs. They are
Yeah.
$50,000.
Right.
So, we let him know, Miller, I don't think that's very realistic. So he's hoping for a diabetes hamster. So I'm like, we can get you a diabetes hamster, Miller. Like, let's just make that happen.
Well, the
So,
the dog, they'll like alert Miller
yes,
when he needs something. What would a hamster just?
It would not, but to Miller,
It
like the
would do
pride in a
everything.
hamster it would mean a lot to him. I know that.
That's so funny. All right, last one, last one. If there is a mom, to the moms listening, what do you want them to hear?
I want them to come to the Unlonely Moms
That's
Club
right,
if they're local.
San
Um,
Diego.
let's go. But also just that, they could start something like this and they could, invite women in to just, you don't have to be in a place where everything is, tied up with a perfect bow. Like if I waited to start this until after Miller was cured, maybe that would be I waited 30 years. And if you, Zach, had waited to start your podcast to things in your life had settled down, it's like I don't think you would be recording, and teaching and leading and blessing people in the ways that you have, and just that, the Lord is with us and he wants to go beside us. Like I don't feel like he's behind us, yeah, he will be in front of us, but like he wants to be beside us,
Hmm.
and just to like let that be enough. And then I also would say just that, you don't have to be on the exact same page. Even, oh, we have the same diagnosis. Well, I'm handling treatment this way, and you're choosing this for your child, or, I'm bringing this all to the feet of the Lord. And like, you don't even like driving by a church. Like, we can still be in it together without having to, really understand and agree on everything. And I just feel like the world like wants us to think like if they are not for you, then they
Oh
should
yeah,
not be welcomed in your life. And it's like you are missing out on like really beautiful lessons in relationships by taking that stance.
yeah. Wow. Um, I just had a thought.
I love your thoughts.
Unlonely Moms Club chapters
How cool.
in every city in San Diego, every town. I guess San Diego is a city, and then nationally.
So cool. I would, oh my word. I would just not, I'd be so unwell. I
It's
would be,
possible. It's possible.
yeah. Well, and especially, I feel like there are organizations that exist that are doing such amazing, beautiful, wonderful things. But just kind of that encouragement to remove as many barriers as you possibly can,
Hmm.
to invite these women in, and just kind of encouraging them to kind of take that model of having the events be free,
Right.
and not making people, I feel like a lot of similar organizations, it's like diagnosis specific. And I'll just share this so quickly because I don't think I'm ever getting over it, but it was a new mom to the club had arrived to my house to arrange flowers, and she had her 6-month-old baby with her, but the baby was asleep in her car seat. So the baby was just kind of tucked away sleeping. We hadn't been introduced to the baby yet. And then when it came time that the baby woke up, she brought this gorgeous, beautiful baby who has Down syndrome out of her car seat. And she'd already been at the event for an hour at this point. And she's showing off her gorgeous, 6-month-old. And she connected with two other moms, Jamie and Elena, who have older sons with Down syndrome.
Oh,
And it just was this powerful moment. they're showing pictures of their sons and, who they are today and what they've walked through. And it was just like, how can you not be hopeful when these moms are here and they're beaming and they have walked, they're ahead of you on this path and they're telling you like, it's a beautiful path. And they're promising her like, you can call us, like
Wow.
we are here with you. And I'm just standing there, I'm just smiling. I'm like, I was probably a little creepy because I wasn't a part of that conversation, but I was just like, if this is the only thing that comes from this club and these efforts, like, I just felt like that mom's life was changed, by coming and arranging flowers at a stranger's house. And she shared, just like, my husband made me come to this. Like, he pushed me out the door. And I was just like, wow, like, just for that to have been demonstrated to her, I just felt like that's the point. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's why these organizations exist and
And it,
why, it's so worth it.
yeah, and who better than you to spearhead it all?
Oh,
That sense of belonging.
yeah.
So, listeners, find community, be in community,
Start your own club.
start your own club. Just take that next step. You won't regret it. Megan. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. We love these conversations, and our goal is for all of you parents to be seen and heard in community with one another, inspired and equipped to take on this life. Just remember one thing: if you don't hear anything else, if you don't remember anything from this week's episode, hear this: you are enough. You have what it takes. Thanks again for being here.